Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Saturday, August the 1st, 10:03 a.m. We'll get started, see if we have any questions. Um, I was going back listening to the recording of last week's discussion last Monday, and it is very interesting. A lot of good stuff in there. And I would urge you, if you would, please, to listen to it again, because a lot of things, I'm surprised that I missed totally the importance of them, the things that were said. Pastor went over the English language and the importance of us being here in this country and how all that's related, and how things resonate when we speak, and understanding what we say and how to use words, and being careful as to what we say. We talked about the English language and the European mindset and the destructiveness of it. We talked about the denominations and them being a part of the whole. We talked about Catholicism. Uh, and being the mother of all Protestant religion. All of that stem from the discussion on the English language. Uh, we talked about the I am, which we've talked about several times before, but being careful what you say when you speak, uh, and the things that you put behind the I am. Uh, the importance of speaking clearly and with intent. Uh, this is the English language, the only one that's not supported by a culture, or really has no spiritual roots. And that is where we come in. When you pull all this together, you see that there's no coincidence that we are here. Audrey talked about artificial intelligence, excuse me, and hallucinations, and we get to that out. If you have any questions about that, we'll let her explain that. Uh, George said something that I thought was very, very important, and I totally missed it last week. But it reminded me of how we uh, take the words of the scriptures and being able to see truth in them, even though it has been edited and moved around and changed. But he talked about staying the course and being one with the ancestors and their and I want to say I just put it in my own words. There is nothing that can change us if we stay the course and recognize who we are. And so no matter what they try to do with the frequencies, uh, recognizing who we are, and we can stay grounded in that 432 hertz that the universe is in. And if necessary, any questions about that, let him elaborate on that part. And then Pastor talked about frequency as well inside the body, and how we resonate, and how we're 70% water, and the importance of that. Uh, so a lot was said, and I went back to listen to this, and I did get a chance to listen to all of it because I was just kind of fascinated at all the stuff that was said that I thought I heard that I guess I did now hear clearly. But that's about all that I have. Any questions or anything that you remember about last Monday's discussion that you want to bring up? Anybody? Pastor? You like me asking you, are you muted, don't
I have to give you something to do so you can feel important.
you? Okay, I appreciate it.
No, really, I want to see first of all if there are questions about anything, because there is something I just saw. Um, you've heard me talk about the number 13 for quite some time, but never really, um, I was never really totally settled with it. And the reason I wasn't is because I knew it had to be a reason that there were 12 disciples. And, um, and the entity called Jesus, which makes 13. And the Judas being one, which actually meaning that one of the life forces took its own course, went its own way. And I wanted to know the significance of it because I remember some years ago when I realized that there were 13 of us as teachers, and I never could make that connection. But today I see something. Um, the number 13 from the Comedic Understanding talks about the cycle of life and transformation. And it being the cycles of life and transformation, the cycle of life is talking about the 13 cycles of the moon, uh, which gives us 13 months, 28-day months, instead of 12. Then the other part of it was that we've been told that Friday the 13th is bad luck. And I've come to understand that anything that we have been told by our religion, by the Euro mindset, needs to be looked deeper into because it definitely means something different than what we've been told. So when I take all of that and make an effort to pull it together so that I would be able to talk about it, this is what I came up with on the understanding is that that one of the things that threw the earth off kilter is 12 months instead of 13 because it broke the life cycle. The life cycle is 28 months, 28 days, 13 months. And the menstrual cycle is every 28 days. So that in itself is the cycle of life. However, when it became 12 months, something broke there. And I believe that the energy represented by Yeshua and, and the apostles, I believe that that energy, when it became 12 instead of 11, that was a message to us that the cycle of life is going to be broken. And when the cycle of life is broken, we are going to have to understand who we are so that we can put the cycle of life back on track. And now here we are. We are living in a period of 12 months. But our mind shifted some, and our mind shifted to the beginning of the year being March. And we talked about that a lot, which means that there is something deeply spiritual that guided us to that space, which also within our essence brought back to us, without us even knowing it, the energy of the 13 months. And the energy of the 13 months now is represented by the 13 of us who make every effort to facilitate on the spiritual, in a spiritual way. Also, the number 13, and all this comes from Kemet. The number 13 represents the transformation of spiritual transformation, spiritual growth. So if the foundation that was laid was for us to grow, continuously grow spiritually, meaning become more and more aware of the spiritual nature that we are, and then all of a sudden that was broken, by the 12 months, then that put us in flux. But now we are restoring everything. We are in a period of restoration. And this period of restoration is important. Why? Because there have been efforts to actually stall this journey for us. The efforts to stall this journey for us was done by forces who, the energy forces who sought to maintain its dominance and its violent ways in the earth. And during the period that it happened, I recognized something was going on. All of us did, but we did not understand what it was. From the beginning, there were 13 of us, then one left. Then there were 13 of us again, and another one left, and there were 12. However, when it became 13 on a consistent basis, that is when the journey took a new turn, meaning that it gave us more enlightenment. We began to see things from a different perspective. We even came to the point where we were guided to get away from the environment that we normally function in and do teacher conclaves. And when we did those conclaves, we saw deeper into the spiritual realm, even though we thought we were simply just learning more. And now here we are. We are on the and standing not on the precipice of anything. We are standing face to face with change, and we are standing face to face with the system that has built itself to a point where it has engaged us in warfare. And we are currently engaged in warfare. And the warfare that we are currently engaged in is the warfare that is being fueled by two things: AI and the collider. And us being engaged in this warfare, we have to understand more at a deeper level of who we are. And we have to embrace it without hesitation or reservation. So looking at the 13, we see that the thing that held the unit together, that was called disciples in Jesus, the one thing that held it together was femininity. And that is because Mary the Tower became a part of that group. And that femininity is what held it together. And now here we are again. But in this case, we are different than what it was during that period. That period talked to us about how masculinity would parade itself as being the source of all spirituality, and it would end up the same way the Tower of Babel did, and that is in a state of confusion. That is happening. That happened rather, and now that we understand that that when the story talks about this entity called Yeshua and Miriam, or Jesus and Mary, what we are seeing is the unification or the unicity of masculinity and femininity, bringing balance. So right now, when I look at this number 13, I see that the femininity that's in the midst of this 13 is different than the femininity that was in the midst of the 13 in the story about Jesus. In this particular 13, there was a large contingency of femininity involved and has been from the beginning. And The masculinity that is being involved did not masquerade as being the wherewithal when it came to understanding spirituality. The masculinity actually deferred and still defers to femininity, and have no issues at all being guided by femininity and understanding that it must become feminine itself in order for it to truly embrace the nature of the spiritual essence of our being. And this in itself is a picture of the transformation of humanity. And this transformation of which I speak of humanity is right before our eyes. If we are not able to see our transformation from believing that we're human to knowing that we are divine, then we would not be able to bring transformation to humanity itself. We are not transforming ourselves. We are recognizing who we are. The transformation comes with humanity. And when we realize that we are not mere men, we are not human, that we are divine, that is when we are more able to engage with the type of warfare that we face now. And this type of warfare that we face now, as I said, is the collider and the AI data centers. And that is one of the reasons the data centers are not up and running the way that they thought they would. Our energy is having an influence on them because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. The weapons of our warfare are spiritual. So we don't enter places and burn down buildings. Neither do we kick in doors or we approach people in a violent way. We simply understand the divine nature of us, which means that we are indeed we are in harmony with the universe, which means that our frequency must be a constant 432. We are in harmony with the universe, and the harmony that we are experiencing with the universe is the harmony that brings to a halt, or seeks to bring to a halt, or is in the process of bringing to a halt the the um, the plans that were laid for this technology to control and manipulate mankind. And as we speak, there are scientists making efforts to synthesize melanin for the purpose of using it in their technology. And we understand that's not going to happen. If you think it is possible, please understand this. Synthesizing means that it's just a substitute for the real deal. And there have always been efforts to substitute us, meaning that the ingestion of our flesh, the ingestion of our sexual organs, the ingestion of our brains, all of these things that these cannibals engaged in reference to us was to become as we are. And they knew and understood who we were, while at the same time uh, causing us by pressure to denigrate ourselves and to forget who we are. So right now we are in a stage of repentance. That is being restored to where we were from the beginning. And that restoration is largely on our part. That restoration is not coming from the universe, neither is it coming from our ancestors. That restoration comes from our desires to be restored. And what restores us is embracing the essence of who we are. And that grants us not only the privilege, but it grants us the authority that we've had all along. And that authority that we've had all along is the authority to bring balance to the earth so that the harmony in the earth will match the harmony in the universe. And that in itself results in us being um, gods or being the divine entities in physical bodies, something that has not really taken hold in this earth. It has been shown to us, but to do it, but to remain aware of who we are and be consistent with it, while at the same time interacting with those who made every effort to be destructive to us and take everything that they saw was our essence and keep it for themselves or use it for themselves in order to keep us enslaved in mind or in spirit or in chains, physical chains. So right now, we are at a pivotal point where we must maintain the decisions that we made to be consistent in this journey of divinity. Be consistent in this journey of realizing and who we are without anyone being able to shake us when it comes to that. The trials that are going to be presented to us are not the type of trials that we have experienced in the past. The trials that are going to be presented to us are the trials where we're going to come face to face with people we respect and who respect us, who are Christians, who are Muslims. And the questions that will be raised, we're going to have to be honest about what we know the truth is, but not in a dogmatic way, not in a way that causes hurt feelings, but in a way where you raise questions and walk them through it so they are able to see who they are. And the people of whom I speak are people that we already know. So I suppose what I'm saying to you is this. Now, on the face of understanding, the energy of 13, understanding that without the loss of any, we are still 13 strong, meaning that we are the essence of what holds everything together. And the reason that as I said earlier, the reason that we kept losing individual teachers was because of the effort to slow or to stop this journey that we're on. And keep in mind also that the ones that fell away both were masculine, and that masculinity has chosen to remain in the throes of religion itself and on the outer edges of what reality is in a spiritual way. Any questions or comments about that? Does it resonate?
It does.
Yes, it does.
So, having said all of that, um, I'm done.
I guess you've given us the spiritual essence of what you wanted to convey. But I'm just wondering about the names of those, the original names of those 13 uh months of that, and especially the one that was taken away. Why was that one chosen to be?
I have not dug deep enough yet to know the 13 original names of the months. However, um, I do believe that when we find those names, or if we are permitted to know what they will be energy forces.
Yeah.
That they would be named, but they would be energy forces because it's just like the one name that they did not change. They made efforts to was Yeshua, which represents the energy of deliverance.
Okay.
And the reason it was so difficult to change it is because it was also in the Hebrew, Joshua. So however, they took all the other names and made them European names of the disciples.
Yeah.
There, because there's nobody in Kemet named John. So that when you label them as being European, what you do subliminally is send a message to those who are the divine entities in the earth that the European mindset is the source of spirituality. No different than when you paint Jesus, a white boy with blue eyes, and you say that this is the Son of God, then you're saying that God is white. Because if the Son of God is a white Jew with blue eyes, then the expectation is for his daddy to be white too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So these are the subliminal things that have been done to us to keep us off balance and to keep us wondering when was God going to answer us. Like when the questions that we were raised, I know I was one who raised it. If the slave master and the slave is praying, whose prayer is God answering?
Yeah.
And those kinds of things, and wondering where is God in all of this. And I'm sure that if not all of you, most of you have heard people raise that question: Where is God doing slavery? Where is He? How come God allowed us to go through all of this, not realizing that we are the God who allowed it? And I have no adverse feelings about it at all anymore. Matter of fact, I'm more elated to know who we are and to understand the divinity or the nature of divinity that we are expressive of in this earth. And and when I do deep dives into history, it helps me to see with a greater clarity the spiritual nature of who we are. I was looking at some things a couple of days ago, maybe, and one of the things that I observed, or that I saw rather, was the reason that there are no black communities in the midst of Arab nations. I did not understand why there were not large black communities there, because uh, um, Islamic slavery lasted 3 or 4 times as long as European slavery lasted. So we were enslaved by Arabs 1,000 years before the European slave trade, and the enslavement, open Islamic justified by open Islamic slave trade justified by the Quran, ended in 1962 in Medina. So why is it? It's because what happened is all the males who were enslaved by Arabs were castrated, and when they were castrated without anesthesia, without any medical care, and like 40, somewhere between 40 and 60% of all the boys who were castrated died, and the women became sex objects, or became sex slaves to the Muslims, and and as a result of that, there was no reproducing between African or children of Akebalon and the women of Akebalon who were enslaved by Muslims. So that is the reason when you look at places like Saudi Arabia, or look at places like Qatar, all these places, you don't see a large contingency of us anywhere in those particular places because of that. So we have survived more than we could ever imagine. And there are aspects of our survival, our history, the longevity of our being in this earth that if we were to look at it scientifically, there is no scientific reason for us to still exist in this earth with any semblance of sanity at all. But because we have embraced who we are, because we know who we are still we are still in existence, of course, because we are here. But more than that, we are still the the sustainers of life in this earth. We are still the all-seeing eye in this earth. We are still the creative forces in this earth, and under no circumstances will we or can we ever be eliminated from this earth with the expectation of any life in this earth surviving. Not going to happen. So 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 um so right now, uh, out of all the things that we are seeing and that we're experiencing, the main thing is that we stay the course. And staying the course simply means reminding ourselves who we are and functioning according to that, and being extremely intentional when we speak. Even if we have to stop speaking and start over, be intentional when you speak. And this is not a name it and claim it um, conversation that exists in that charismatic setting. This is truly about being creative. This is truly about creating with words. And the first thing that we create is the environment that we live in. And an extension of that environment is the environment that humanity lives in. And all of that comes as a result of our intention. And our intention is to be in harmony, not only us with the universe, but to make sure that humanity, that the earth itself is in harmony with the universe as well. Questions or comments?
Oh, I have a comment. I was doing some reading online a while ago about different regions of the world and how basically Black people were there. And the Arabs that you mentioned, of course, we were there, very dark-skinned people in that region of the world before, I think, the Bedouins, before, anyway, Turks came out of, I kind of want to call it Europe, honestly, and took over that region. And that's when the clothing changed, and you see like the long flowing robes, because those were a very light people that couldn't tolerate the sun in that area, unlike the dark skinned people that were there before. So it just, when you were talking about the slavery that occurred there, it just sounded an awful lot like a different flavor of the European mindset. But same story. That's it.
Same story. And when you think about it, when you say, you almost said European, well, quite frankly, there is no border, no physical border between Europe and Asia. There is no, Europe is not a continent. Europe is the western part of of Asia. That's it. So when we talk about the Arabs there is no ethnic, how can I put this? There's no group that's called Arabs. Like there is a group that's called Japanese. Why? Because the Arabs came into existence when there was intermarriage and rape and pillaging between the Europeans and the Asians. That's where they came from. And if you do a deep dive into history, you will find that the word that describes them, Arab, is actually a word that came into the recent vernacular during recent history. And when I say recent, of course, I'm talking about thousands of years, but I'm not talking about the number of years that we are talking about in our existence. So there's much to be gleaned from that period of time. But the main thing is that there are portions of the Quran that justifies enslaving people who look like us, and justifies the no other way to put it, the rape of our women. And the only thing that would keep a woman alive during Arab's enslavement was for her, if she was impregnated by her owner, then she could not be put to death. And she could not be sold. She stayed in his household, but she didn't stay in the midst of the other wives that they had. She became a concubine, and she stayed in a different quarter than those who were the wives of the owner, the slave owner. So we are the most hated people on the earth. And what makes it really ugly is that some of the people who hate us just as much as the others look just like us. And if we look at it from a human perspective, it can become disturbing. But if we look at it spiritually, then we begin to understand these are environmental issues that we are dealing with this mindset of those who express self-hatred. And just like there are variables that changes the physical material environment that we live in terms of trees, etc. There are also energy forces that changes the environment of our reality, and the environment that creates our reality is altered by what we are exposed to, and what we have been exposed to has kept us living in an environment that was not congruent with the nature that we truly are, and yet we survived it. So what we are doing now is creating the environment that all of mankind can thrive in without having to live in fear, without being subjected to enslavement, and without being denigrated in any way whatsoever. That's the environment that we are creating, and the environment that we are creating must also be the environment that we live in within ourselves. Because whatever is in us, that's what comes out of us. Whatever is in us, that affects the environment that we live in, as well as the environment that others live in, especially when they are in our presence, but even more than when they're in our presence. Does that resonate?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for the input.
Pastor, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Grand Rising family. So what you just explained, is that the same as above, so below?
Yes.
Like, however we treat one another or our thoughts is, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. And what I just talked about in terms of us being in harmony with the universe is as above, so is below. We have not been living like that. We have been living in our mindset, of course, separate from the universe. Because the universe to us has been nothing except science. That's it. And somewhere within the midst of that darkness of the universe, there was a heaven that was light, and that we were supposed to be at making efforts to go to if we did what white people told us to do. That's the bottom line.
Thank you.
I thank you. Anyone else? If there are no questions or comments, I'm done, Ron.
I have a question.
Question?
Yes.
Okay.
When you were saying,
Yes,
what's the
speak a
difference
little
in,
louder, please. Hello?
I'm still here. What is the difference between,
Are you able to hear Charles? Guys?
Little bit.
Barely, but yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Charles. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What is the difference between uh, uh, Judas death and the people doing the same thing, dying the same way?
Okay. Um, First of all, we were taught in Christianity um, that Judas killed himself because he could not live with the idea of having sold Jesus out. So, what does all of that mean spiritually? When I talked about it earlier in relationship to how there were 12 instead of 13, um, what it says to me is that the energy of the 13 is indicative of the cycle of life. And when that cycle of life is interrupted, then everything begins to go haywire, and the results of that is confusion. So when it talks about Judas having killed itself, it's talking about masculinity that could not see the value in itself as well as the value in what was happening with the 13. The masculinity is no different in that regard. Rather, is no different than what masculinity did at the Tower of Babel, and that is confusion. And that masculinity is no different than the masculinity that exists in religion today. In this particular case, when it says that Judas killed himself, this is actually talking about masculinity choosing to cease to be in the presence of those things that are spiritual, that has been put in motion to bring changes to humanity so that humanity can be in harmony with the universe. And that is happening to this day. Masculinity is dominant in religion, especially with us as religious people. I'm not talking about the Eurocentric preachers. I'm talking about black preachers. And these same people would rather choose to step away from what the truth is in order to aggrandize themselves. And in doing so, they actually are killing themselves. They are dying to the truth. And they are spiritually dead. And so this is what I see in what Judas represented in regards to the question that you just raised. Any other insight into that or questions about what I just said from anyone?
A question again. Pastor?
Go ahead.
Yeah. You keep talking about the number 13, and I was telling Audrey I had heard this guy say that the number 13 represent the mother, feminine energy. Because I just heard you talk about cycles also. So how does that line up with what you're talking about? What's your feelings on that?
It's not my feelings. The true essence of it, of 13, in regards to femininity, is the life cycle. Because every 28 days a woman has a cycle, right?
Right.
And the year is 13 months with 28 days each. That speaks directly to femininity. And all of it is based upon the cycle of the moon, which is feminine. So there is no difference between that at all.
Okay.
All of that is feminine. There is no escaping these feminine aspects and reality of what life is. There's no escaping that at all. Everything is there, feminine. Does that help you, Evelyn?
Yes, sir. And thank you for the truth. I shouldn't have said feelings because it's not about feelings. It's about truth.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
thank you.
You're quite welcome. Anyone else?
Does that
Yes,
get
this
you,
is
Charles? I'm sorry, cut somebody off.
Yes, that got me.
Okay.
Thank you, Charles. Someone else is about to say something?
yes, this is Angela. I just wanted to ask a question. Well, yeah, it's going to be a question, but you was talking about the cycles, and I saw on TikTok where it was a Cableon women and a male, and they was talking about how the Cableon women was experiencing like 2 months of missing their cycles, and the way they was talking about it was more Cableon women speaking on it. But I just wanted to know what your thoughts. They were saying since I don't know, something about the CERN. We talked about the CERN. They had been experiencing it.
Okay. First of all, let's understand that the cycle is very sensitive in that women's cycles sink if they stay in the same place with each other long enough. The other thing is that cycle responds to stress too. A woman can miss a cycle because of stress. There are so many different variables that causes that. But one of the major things that has an adversarial influence is that we deal with 12 cycles instead of 13. And that in itself wreaks confusion to the body, to the energy forces that are present in the in females in regards to their cycles. Now, as far as CERN is concerned, people are losing their minds because they don't believe it. They do not believe, people do not believe that what's happening with that collider has an influence on the reality around us. They do not believe that simply because it is a machine that's 17 miles in diameter and 100 meters on the ground. They do not believe it. They believe that everything that's happening in that machine is contained within that machine. That is not so. The energy in that machine escapes that machine. The energy that's produced in that machine has an effect on the earth, on humanity, on everything around us. And that is the reason it is imperative that we stay the course, that we maintain 432 hertz of our existence in this earth. At least that. And making every effort to raise our frequency to the level or to the place where we become crystallized or silicon, where we become what we call the George. What is the frequency, the God frequency?
Uh, 963 hertz.
Thank you. We raise our frequency to 963, and we do that by embracing who we are, and by and by being expressive of who we are, and being intentional about our actions as well as our speech. I know it is difficult for us to wrap our mind around understanding that a machine in Europe that's deep underground has the ability to have impact on the energy around the earth, but it is reality. It does have an impact. That machine, do you believe that the moon has an impact on the earth? The energy of the moon. And I'm not talking about Angela. I'm talking about all of us. Yes, we do. And we know it does. It has an effect on the ocean, does it not? Yes, it does. It has an effect on a woman's body, does it? Yes, it does. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about menstrual cycles. This recreation of this energy, or this creation rather, of this energy in that machine does have an effect. And if it didn't, it was not having an effect, it wouldn't even matter. These people are not doing this simply because they want to spend some money to see what's going to happen. These physicists have been working on this for years. This is not something that came into being in 2008, 12, whenever it first started, when they started it up. They have been working on this since the 70s and 80s, making every effort to create the energy force that brought life into existence. And they just got the technology to make efforts to do that. So when they saw that they were unable to maintain a control over the reality that humans experience, they shut it down and they start adding magnets to it. And they are adding magnets to it in order to increase the power and the force of it. And I'm saying to you that we are the ones who are standing in the gap, that is disallowing this to be because of our embracing the essence of who we are. And that is divine energy in this earth. And nothing can ever supersede divine energy that is intentional about its direction or intentional about what it desires to happen. That's what I am saying. Does that help you, Angela?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions about this? This is extremely important.
I do have a question. Grand Rising, everybody. So if they've shut the machine down, so that means its influence has been sort of cut off at the moment. So what does that mean for us for the next however long the machine is shut down?
What it means for us is that this is saying to us, listen, it's time for you to stop playing with this. Be who you are or walk away. Because everything is on you now. It is up to us to be intentional about who we are and about the direction that we take, about the things that we say, about how we interact with not only each other, but with people in general. This is the most crucial period in this lifetime of humanity. This is one of the biggest push that has ever taken place on the face of the earth for that Euro mindset to usurp the power that they know we have. They are trying to become God, and they are trying to become God in an artificial way. And they would not be at this point of doing it if there were not someone standing in the gap. We are in that gap. We are the ones who would disallow this to take place, to damage humanity. In the coming days, coming weeks, we are going to see things fall apart even faster. Right now, this appears not to have any connection whatsoever to what's going on with that collider. But you look at what's happening in this country. In this country, everything is falling apart. 72% of the nation said Trump should not be in Iran. 70% of the MAGA says that they don't trust Trump with the war, and 50-some% do not trust him with the economy. These are the racists who supported him. So what's happening? We are seeing the dismantling of a system that has plagued the world ever since Europeans came in contact with people who look like us. So right now, we must hear the message that's being sent to us. Be who you are. You don't have to academically understand all of it. You don't have to academically understand any of it. You don't have to be able to regurgitate it. It doesn't matter. When it resonates, embrace it and hold on to it. And don't try to question it to the point where you are doubting it. Just let it be what it is and hold on to that which resonates with you. Does that help you, Audrey? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and it occurs to me too that once the collider is actually shut down, that's going to reduce a lot of the noise and chaos in terms of people's consciousness, in terms of, hearing what the truth is, I think.
That's true.
So it'll be a time for it to have some real influence over how people are thinking and getting them closer to hearing the truth.
And we're hearing it now. We're beginning to hear our people speak differently about Christianity, speak differently about who they are. We're beginning to hear that. And we cannot allow the noise, I'm not an African, or the noise, I'm a Christian, you're going to hell for what you're saying. We cannot allow that to drown out what we are doing. Our journey is sacred. And we chose this journey. And we are obligated to stay the course for the cause of humanity. I'm done, unless there are questions or comments.
I have a question. we talked about the collider collapsing into one, the macro and the micro, you know, what they're trying to do. But in a sense, we've been working on that when we talk about put things in. What will that look like when it's done spiritually, the correct way? Because
Oh,
that's what this is opportunity for us to get accomplished, right?
yes. I cannot say that I can paint you a picture of it so that you would be able to see it like you would see yourself if you looked in the mirror. However, I can give you aspects of it. And what I see is um, time and space collapsing. What I see is when we talk about the macro and micro collapsing, what I see is the true essence of science and spirituality are becoming one and the same. That's what I see. Science is absolutely nothing but a physical view of what spirituality has brought into existence or what spirituality is. Pseudoscience is when you take chemicals and make stuff like medicines that harm people. But real science is understanding the functionality of the universe. And that is what they're trying to control. So when that collapses, they are talking about being able to control the energy that's in the earth as well as the universe. That's not going to happen. Now, where we are concerned, um, when we talk about the collapsing of macro and micro, what we are talking about is that those truths that are in the macro will become a part of those of the micro, meaning that the mindsets of people will begin to change because what's in the macro is becoming more and more available to them.
Yeah.
Pastor Jay,
Yes.
so if I'm hearing you correctly, there will be one language once,
No,
no?
that's not what I'm saying. It would be one language in that it would be a language of spirituality, of positivity, a language of benefit to humanity.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Okay,
it'd be that's the only language that would be.
right. I got
Okay.
that.
All right. Thank you. The the English language as it is now will not be. There will be no more spells cast with this language. There will be no more energy in this language to be destructive. This language is intentional in what it does in terms of destruction. Every single time that African women or Cabelonian females have risen, they have been slapped down. The period in this country, we are told about the Salem witch trials. And we are told that they were white women who were evil. This was about black women who had the powers of the priests from the continent from which they were taken, and those who are foundational black Americans who were in this country, who were doing voodoo, who were able to use the elements around us for the benefit of humanity, whether it was healing or whether it was warding off those who sought to destroy us. And these trials did not only happen in Massachusetts. These trials happened all over the country, as well as in Haiti. When I was in Haiti and standing there at Gonaive at the place where this lady priest summoned the ancestors before they begun to fight for their freedom. When I was standing there, I was told that when that pig was slaughtered in that space, that the ancestors spoke to this through this woman, and she told them what to do and what the results would be in terms of their victory. However, the reason that things fell apart in Haiti is because the men in Haiti began to fight amongst themselves, and it was instigated by Europeans. And then when they fought amongst themselves, that's when they lost all control in Haiti. And that is the reason that Haiti is in the predicament that it is in right now, because when the Europeans, when they engaged against each other, because of the instigation of the Europeans came in and took over. And the Europeans on which I speak are the Europeans in this country in particular, in France, and in Britain, but more importantly, in this country, in America. That is why Haiti is the way it is right now. So, what am I saying to you? I am saying to you that at the helm of every single movement that is spiritual in nature has been the black female. And at every single turn, there have been efforts to stop her by any means necessary. And the reason that the women who were who were being tried and burned at the stake, drowned in Massachusetts. One reason, they were taking the land also, but also those women left. A large contingency of them left, and they ended up in the lower part of the state of South Carolina. And their effectiveness has been felt ever since. And that is why the place in South Carolina for voodoo or hoodoo was in Charleston, and the place where they went is really in close proximity to Charleston itself. So I am saying to all of us that we are in a space now where we have to, without a doubt, embrace and recognize the power of femininity and the activity of femininity that brings deliverance to all of humanity. All I'm saying is this: the African womb desires to bring her children in line with Maat. And that's what's taking place now, even though they are still rebellious and making every effort to resist it. Questions or comments? Does that resonate?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, it does.
It does.
Yes.
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Yeah, Divine Rising family. Pastor, you was speaking, with regards to femininity and the importance of putting the cosmic mother back in the center of the circle where we talk about eternity. I just want to bring up when you mentioned numbers and you talked about, operating on the frequency or vibration of the 432 hertz, which is that universal, feeling of harmony. Harmony is one of the principles of Mayat. And it has been, said several times in our sessions before. But when you connect the 432 hertz and you look at the crown chakra of the 963 hertz, which arouses a sense of oneness and unity, we begin to see, how the universe and how we're able to appreciate the Black woman's womb. And when I say the Black woman's womb, I was fascinated in terms of just doing some reading, about the Kebulonian Black womb. And when we spoke about the eternal waters of the Nun, we know that our bodies are 70% water. However, when we look at the nun, it's important that we differentiate between waters, that is regular water, and the eternal water of the womb. And when I say the womb, I was looking at it from the panspermia, which talks about all seeds in terms of as above, so below. And then when we look at the Black woman's womb, I really see the waters of the nun being in the Black woman's womb. And that eternal water in the woman's womb is not the regular water that we, per se, just take as what we thought it was, but it's actually the plasma. It's actually her sacredness. When you mention the word sacredness in terms of how wonderful, marvelous we are made, but in that comparison of the cosmos and looking at the Black woman's womb, and I'm looking at both, it's just so amazing to appreciate when you compare the two. And I don't want to, get, off track, but what I'm basically trying to say is there's such an alignment, that if we take the time to truly appreciate the cosmic mother, we take the time to truly appreciate the Black woman's womb, there's so much that we can learn as we spiritually desire to appreciate the magnificence of who she is. And I just say this last one point because I was looking at it from the heavenlies, where it talks about the placenta, which is connected to the uterine wall, of the female, and it talked about the navel, how it's connected, in terms of the stomach, but it's just amazing, and I just can't go into anything deep about it, but it's just a matter that I appreciate it from looking at the black hole, the white hole, and the wormhole, and is basically similar to parts of the woman's body, but they were saying that the placenta has so much more spiritual insight that is just something that you have to, wish or desire to know more about. So I don't want to get off track about it, but I think that it's important, that we truly appreciate, the spirituality, of who the Creator created us to be. I just wanted to share those thoughts. Hopefully, again, it resonates to some extent of what we've been talking about. I'm done.
It does resonate. It resonates deeply.
Yeah.
The that is the reason they meaning Eurocentric men are collecting the placentas from Black women and studying them and using them in research.
That may be also why they tried to hide in Genesis chapter 1 the importance of the water, uh, trying to make it sound as though it had no true function at all, when we know that it did.
Yes. Audrey made a statement about the word being seed, not today, but in previous days, and the water being the source that the seed is planted in. That the realness of that is seen in what we are saying when we talk about being intentional with what we say using this English language. Being 70% water and your word being the seeds that is planted in that water. Your words, that which are the seed, determines the frequency at which that water vibrates, which is your body. That is the reason that if someone says to you, you dumb as nails, and they say it in a derogatory way, you feel that. Why do you feel it? Because those words change the frequency. And the frequency of that change, if you are angry, it lowers your frequency. And now you're out of harmony with the universe. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
And so that's why we have to be intentional when we speak. It's imperative that we are intentional when we speak. The harmony is 432, as I said, and I'm saying that that's just the harmony. That's not the functionality. That's not the divine functionality. That's the harmony of it all. That's bringing everything in harmony. But the God functionality is 900 and what, George, 23?
33.
963.
63. 900. If I write it and see it, I remember. I think. But anyway, that's the frequency that the dude who was talking to us about what was going on in that collider. This is the frequency he's talking about for us. This is the frequency of the crystallized of the crystals around the pineal gland. So anyway, I know we said a lot today. Are there any questions or comments? George.
Yeah, I have one last comment. When you talked about harmony, again, when we can appreciate vibrating on that frequency of oneness, it also brings into a return to spiritual order. And I think that's so significant because we know that we're talking about spirituality and all of these frequencies resonate and have a particular meaning, which again is something that, we need to, continually appreciate as we are one yet many, but just being in that one accord in terms of our spiritual enlightenment. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to leave you with this. Don't concern yourself with trying to remember what frequency you're functioning at or what you're vibrating. Don't concern yourself with that. Concern yourself with being intentional when you speak. Concern yourself with doing the right thing. Regardless of what it takes, just do the right thing. And you say, what is the right thing? You know what the right thing is. That's something that you experience internally. And even if you don't do the right thing, correct it immediately or as soon as you realize you haven't. And doing the right thing is inclusive of being intentional in your speech. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor Rich, I got 2 questions to ask. The first question, when you was talking about the Salem, Massachusetts, is that where the saying Miss Mary Black came from? And the other one was about the 369 frequency. 369, yeah.
369 of what?
Hmm?
I didn't understand what the 369. What did you ask?
the 369 frequency when they talk about what is it, Nick Tesla? Forgot what it is.
Nicholas Tesla, yes, understanding that. That is something that we have not really talked about, and that is something that I would like to refrain from talking about right now, because we said a lot about a lot of different things, and the 369 that Tesla talked about is being one with the universe and being your quote unquote higher self. Let's say that one, okay? For now.
Okay.
For now.
Okay.
What's the other one?
Oh, you know, when you talk about
Mary Black.
the witches, is
Yeah.
that where that came from when they
I have
say
no
that
idea.
game?
I
Oh, okay.
I have no clue.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hey, Pastor, just one question about the water. It's just like when you prick your finger, water come out of your finger that you prick before the blood ooze out. Why is that?
Say that again.
Like when you get cut, when you bleed, water ooze out first for the blood.
That's plasma. The blood is what you see is red is not liquid. The red is simply the hemoglobin that's on the blood. And what carries those cells is plasma. So there is a mixture. The plasma is what carries everything through the body. We talk about the blood flowing through the body, but it's plasma that carries the blood through the body, and it is a type of water that George was mentioning. I think anyway, when he was talking about the difference between the water that regular water that we drink and the water that is in the body. We're talking more about plasma. Now, in our cells is water, but in our vessels is plasma. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Well, guys, you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will meet you here tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Good job.